So we've just done the sensory testing. We've all, I think, probably learned a little bit from that. Maybe myself more than everyone else here. So yeah, thanks for taking us through that. It's good to just know it's not so black and white. It's not like, oh, that's good or bad, or it's this or that. It's
That's
why am I tasting this? What's the reason behind it?
Was it fun?
Yeah, it was very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I think, it's educational, which I find enjoyable.
Yeah.
So
Good.
it's always good to know. So now, slightly different. Now what we're going to do is just sort of go through most of, if not all, the beers we have here. Maddie, seeing as these are your beers, do you want to talk us through what we've got in front of us?
Okay, so we're starting off with the 4 core beers, I guess, that we started the brewery with back nearly 2 years ago. So first of all, Summer Ale, Pale Ale, the New World Lager, which we just use for our sensory training, and then IPA. These beers are all pretty fresh. They've been put into package in the last couple of weeks. So it'd be good to get some feedback from you boys and see what you think. And then hopefully I can help guide you through it if there is anything we pick up.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so fire away. Summer Ale first.
Go the summer first.
This is a bit where you go, I like that. That's
Yeah,
good.
that's good. I like that beer. No, I'm trying to think of a more intelligent thing to say. But yeah, it's a good beer. It's nice and fresh. Slightly malty, maybe. That's maybe all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, whenever someone looks at a summer beer, they go, "What's it taste like?" I usually just go like for a bit crass, but I go, it's just a smashable, drinkable beer.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of bitterness to it, but it's just really good, obviously, on a hot day. But I actually would like to know more about the style. I don't know a whole heap about the style, actually. I'm wondering if you could give us a bit of
not really a style, is it?
insight into it.
Not really. I guess technically it's probably more of a Australian pale ale. It uses Australian hops. Incidentally, I don't think an Australian ale has to use Australian malt, but it does. So the flavours that sort of stand out from Australian hops, classic is Galaxy. So most people would have drunk Stone and Wood. That's very sort of passion fruity.
I was going to ask that. Was Stone and Wood originally supposed to be marketed as a summer ale?
I'm not actually
English
sure.
Summer Ale, that's
English
correct.
Summer
Yes,
Ale,
so
yeah.
it actually, I think it won in the World Beer Cup. They only do it once every other year, I think. Every other year, I think.
That's right.
So I think it's like 2012 or 2014. It won like the world champion English style Summer Ale.
Yep.
But sort of beer styles are constantly evolving. And so they've created a new beer style called Contemporary Australian Style Pale Ale.
Which is a summer, basically. Is it?
Well, we have summer half the year, I suppose. But
I'm just interested because...
So basically, to describe an Australian style contemporary Australian, so there's actually 2 Australian style pale ale beer classes when you go into competition. So there's the classic Australian style pale ale. So that is a little bit estery, might have a little bit of banana, might be very firm bitterness, cloudy, golden in colour and that sort of thing. And so the beer that's really synonymous to that style is Cooper's Pale, Cooper's Sparkling. Not really about the hop aromatics or anything like that. And then there's the contemporary Australian style pale ale, which has very clean fermentation characteristics. So it doesn't have the banana or anything like that, but it's all about the hop aromatics being light and crisp and fresh and very low bitterness and more contemporary. So Stone and Wood Pacific Ales pretty much sort of ticks the box of what an contemporary Australian style pale ale is.
Very much designed for an Aussie summer where you just want a beer that's got some nice tropical notes and enough to sort of keep you interested, but very smashable, to use Duncan's words.
Probably the best way to describe it,
A
isn't
beer
it?
that you don't have to really think too much about. It smells nice and then it drinks well.
Yep.
That's about it.
And is that often a beer that people start on?
Yeah,
here?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't like the term gateway beer, but that's sort of what it is. So people, I guess, come to a brewery or go to a bar that haven't drank a lot of craft beer or haven't ventured too far down the path, A beer like this is a great sort of introductory into the pale ale or sort of that more hoppier style. So, and we find it appeals to a lot of women as well. So obviously women are half the beer market, so you want to be able to make beer that is not just some crazy double IPA or something. Not to say women wouldn't like that, but something, that is appealing.
That's where they started.
It's easy to drink, yeah. So sort of a good starting beer.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've got the pale ale.
Yep.
That's the next one, isn't it? Yep.
How does it look? Does it look the same as the summer ale, Matty?
No, not at all. Definitely more amber. Still quite clear, but definitely different colour.
A little bit darker in colour. So I might describe this one. So still, again, quite crisp and refreshing, but it's got a little bit of malt sweetness to it. There's a little bit of kind of a toasted malt character without it but tasting biscuity or anything like that. It's just got this nice subtle sort of bready kind of sweetness, and there's a little bit of caramel sweetness in it as well. And then a pretty subtle sort of amount of hop flavour and aroma in it as well. But again, it's quite, you'd drink pints of this all day.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
You could sit on that all day for sure, easily.
So,
and then the colour, obviously, that's comes from the type of malt as well.
Yeah, so the pale ale is sort of more based on an American style pale ale where it's a little bit sort of malty of base. So we have more toasted or more highly kilned malts, I guess. So Munich malt, that gives it that sort of toastiness, and the caramel sweetness comes from a little bit of crystal malt. And then that allows you to sort of put more hops into the beer to carry the flavour of the hops, balances the beer out pretty nicely. Whereas the first one is basically all pale malt, a little bit of wheat, which is classic in their style, and a little bit of Vienna. So you can see it in the colour, obviously. That's where it comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty. And
But
then,
again, very easy drinking.
Yeah.
Good for Queensland heat.
It's, I could just smash that all day. It's a good one. And then we've got the lager, which we just had with our controlled testing.
Which we destroyed with diacetyl.
We took that one apart.
For me, that one tastes a little bit different to most of the lagers that I have been drinking. Can you explain that to me?
I do get that comment a bit.
That's what every one of my mates has come in and had a lager. They're like, I just had this lager, but it doesn't taste like a lager.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's sort of, I guess, the idea. We call it a New World lager, which basically means it has hops from the New World. So in our case, New Zealand and Australia, the Southern Hemisphere. And then I try and make it, I guess, a bit more as a craft lager than what people would particularly picture as a lager. A lot of lager drinkers go on a lager, they'll expect like a Forex Gold or a Tooheys New, something that's super drinkable, not much flavour at all going on, a little bit of ester. But this one, it's got a little bit of Vienna malt in it just to give a bit of sweetness on the body, and then some New Zealand hops, just to give it a little bit of hop aroma without being too much. But again, designed to be pretty drinkable.
And
that's climate.
It's crisp.
Is that colour also? Is that a different colour to most lagers? I just feel
it
like
is very light.
Yeah.
So I don't put any coloured malt at all. So this beer was only kegged today. So you can see it's a little bit hazy as well. So most of that is sort of yeast haze. So none of the beers here are filtered, so I guess as a style, a New World Lager, it's almost like a colour beer, a traditional German colour beer, where the beer is unfiltered. In 2 weeks' time, even in keg, that'll be clearer or brighter, as we say in beer. Yeah. And the beer will continue to evolve. But when it's freshly kegged like that, it always just has a bit of haze, which personally I like the appearance.
Yeah, it just looks a little bit different to me.
It's almost like a nice lemony colour. Yeah.
For sure. And then we've got the IPA.
I can only drink 1 pint of this. Not that it's a bad beer, but it's, 7.5?
7.5 this
Yeah, so like I would fall over. after like 2 pints of this.
That's why I caught an Uber today. So if I fall out, slump over on the mic.
That's right.
So this
Always drink in moderation. But for me, there's some really interesting characteristics about this beer. Firstly, it's got quite a firm bitterness, but then it also has this perception of body. And when I say a beer has body, it's about how it feels in your mouth, how it feels quite viscous and thick and full and that sort of thing. Like, so it's not a flavour characteristic. It's actually your sense of touch inside your mouth. And alcohol can actually help accentuate body in a beer, even though the probably gravity of the beer is probably pretty low.
Quite low.
But there's enough alcohol that gives you the perception of body. So it's pretty interesting. Obviously, lots of hops.
Yep.
American hops, I'm going to say.
Yeah. Yep.
And Matty, with this IPA, because it's a West Coast IPA, isn't it? So that's a little bit different to some other IPA styles that we might see getting around.
Yeah, this one's sort of based on, I guess, what your classic American IPA was. My interpretation of a West Coast IPA. So if you have a look at it, it's clear. It's not a hazy. Yeah. It's almost all pale malt, just a smidge of Vienna, just for a bit of body, as Hendo was just talking about. And then lots of US hops. So it has lots of hops towards the end of the brew. So a lot in the whirlpool and then dry hop. So that really brings out the flavour and aroma of the hops. And then also it's 7.5%, but I'll try to make it pretty drinkable as well.
Yeah.
So it's got enough bitterness in there where it balances that body without being too much, where you have to cut it with a knife.
Yeah.
So it's, again, about drinkability.
And that doesn't hit you in the face at all. Like it's just nice and drinkable.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Slips under the radar, mate.
It does, yeah.
Well, what I got out of it was obviously when you smell it, it's like really fresh, beautiful hop smell there, and then you take a sip, and there's that. It's a very good balance of the bitterness and the sweetness as well. Which is my first kind of, I suppose, thought of it when I went down.
Yeah, that the aroma, like obviously when you smell it, like once you sort of get to about here, I was really picking that up compared to these other three.
Yeah.
Like there was quite a nice aroma. Not to say these didn't smell nice or anything, but I'm just getting more flavour or more smell, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Generally, an IPA has a lot more hops in it than even than a pale ale. Pale ale, you still put in plenty of hops in the brew, but then IPA is sort of where you get to
Take
max
it
it
up
out
a
a bit.
notch. Yeah.
Turn the
Really,
dial
so
up.
it sort of jumps out of the glass a bit.
You know, as a head brewer like Matty, when he put together the core range of beers, if you have a look at all four of the beers, like they all look different. They all are different colour, and you can tell which beer it is just by looking at it. Like they're not identical. They're pretty close, but they're not identical, and that's really important because when you start out and you're writing beer recipes and in the last sort of 150, 200 years, and that sort of thing, as far as beer history goes, we're trending towards very pale beers. So you have to have some diversity in how they look and how they smell and how they taste, because that takes your consumer on a bit of a journey.
Is that the goal really? That these four beers here, like there's anyone that walks in, they can definitely start on one of these. Is that something that you got in mind?
Yeah. So when we started, we had 5 tanks at the brewery. So we made 5 different beers. The one that's not here at the moment is the stout, the Dark Storm Stout, which hopefully you get a chance to make soon. But the idea was to make them all pretty approachable. Yeah. We're in an area that, while it now has a very good craft beer bar up the road, is probably having a brewery is probably still a bit of a new idea, I guess, to this area. So we had to sort of make it approachable to the locals and then also to the wider consumer as we grew bigger. And then from there, as we go on, you get to try, I guess, different styles and sort of beers that are more jacked up to a degree.
Yeah.
Hazy pale ales, 8% hazy pale ales, imperial stouts, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you have your 4 beers where they're aimed, all be very drinkable and have enough flavour, obviously. Yeah. But and then from there you can sort of go on the journey, make some more weird and wonderful things.
So yeah, I guess the standard journey for people coming in and maybe trying some of these beers for their first time is they might come in, they might try one of these four, and they might potentially then move on down the line for something more adventurous. So yeah, why don't we go and try those ones now, and you can talk us through them as well.
Absolutely.